Hey guys, Hook'em Horn 7 here, and we've got a special treat for you on this episode of H&H. We have a couple of guests with us. First, we have our normal Husker Fan 26. Husker Fan, how are we doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Yeah, good, good. Your Pats are winning, so I imagine you are pretty
Exactly.
happy. And then on this episode, guys, we decided to switch it up. We have a couple of other coaches who are in the world with us. Going to help to break down D1A recruiting a little bit. We have Daryl Jones. Daryl, how are you today?
Spectacular.
Good, good. You got nice weather over there or
Oh
cold?
yeah, it's southern Louisiana.
Oh,
We
well, there
we
you
can't
go.
win. It's no snow, just rain, but not today, so it's not bad.
Good, good, good deal. The rest of the country seems to be getting hammered with snow. And then we also have Jay Hunters, coach at Northern Iowa. He'll help out on D1AA recruiting. How are we doing today, Jay Hunters?
I'm doing all right, but unfortunately, I'm one of the guys that's buried in snow.
Yeah, yeah. It seemed like you all got quite a bit. I kind of thought we would get some. We just got cold weather though, and a little bit of frozen rain, but nothing too bad here in Colorado. On this episode of H&H, guys, we're going to discuss little bit of D1AA recruiting, maybe some classes or players that stood out to us. We're going to then go on to D1A recruiting. Again, some players or classes that kind of stood out to everyone. And then we'll just go around the horn here and throw out who we think some Super Bowl contenders will be here as we kind of get toward the end of the NFL playoffs in real life. So kicking it off here, let's start with D1AA. And Jay Hunters, the way we kind of broke this out, you've kind of got the first five conferences that are in D1AA, and then I've got the second set of five as they are alphabetically. So if you'd like to kick us off, what did you think, from looking at the teams you covered here?
Yeah, sure. I start off with the A10, of course. They got three coaches in there. The defending national champion comes from there with Kaz 1007. That's going to be my toughest thing is trying to figure out how to pronounce everybody's names on here. So I don't know how everybody, says it according to how they mean it, but just from reading. But yeah, he seems like he did pretty good from what I've looked at over his recruiting roster here. I pretty much looks like he had everything set up on the first day how he wanted it, and he kind of waited around for one last guy at the end. Looks like he might have possibly been a drop down. It was a defensive back, Herman Ortega, and he looks like he was a pretty good pickup. They don't have him ranked as far as what the rating is for each person, but he does seem to have some good cores. So I think it was probably somebody that was on him, and he just kind of waited it out to see what he could pick up. Everybody else he signed pretty much on the front or on the first
Uh-oh.
day. Yeah, but he's got a kind of a weak strength of schedule. I think that's he probably ain't going to have a tough time during the season, so he'll probably be there at the end. But his running backs to me are kind of average. They were really high work ethic, but the stamina was a little bit lower than what I personally like to have. But sometimes you got to take what you can get, when it comes to.
Right, right. Well, one of those looks like it's from clear down in Georgia, so he had to go distance for one of them.
Yeah, yeah. He ain't afraid to go anywhere. It looks like most of the time it looks like yeah, he's pretty close, but he did search for a few. Like I said, it just seems like he's one of the guys he's got is a little bit low on speed, but they both are high on work ethics. So I think he's waiting for him to he's going to start him later on. Maybe red shirt one or two, or and then see how they turn out. Junior and senior years.
Right. Yeah, that's totally a possibility. I think he runs several formations from playing him last year, so he
Yeah,
totally has room to probably redshirt probably one of them and let the other guy kind of just play second string, maybe quick plays out of the back kind of a thing.
yeah. That's what I'm guessing as well. Yeah. So it looks like he filled in his positions where he needed it best, and then the other guys, the Rob Man 21, he's kind of a middle pack guy to me. He's not terrible. He's not great. He just it's I think he gets what he can get. Being down in Florida, I've recruited back there a long time ago, but I didn't think it was too awful bad, but with Wilkinson having, more coaches than anything, that might
Right.
have a playing factor in it too. But like I said, he's kind of the middle of the pack guy. He's got some really good guys and he's got some really bad guys, and then most of them are just kind of average. So like I said, it just seems like pretty much just an average team. Nothing spectacular. He might surprise you here and there, but the quarterback he's got is pretty decent, I think. The game instinct and technique is decent. So he, if he redshirts him, he might be all right down the road.
Yeah, quarterback's probably my favorite out of that class too. I do see he kind of came up in our neck of the woods there a little bit. He's got 2 guys from Iowa, which is kind of surprising. But with all of us out there are still plenty of guys that I find, people from a distance coming in and getting.
Right. Like I say, I usually have them on my board, kind of watching them, but those 2 guys, I think let's see, one of them was which guy was it? Iowa City, the linebacker. Yeah, I think I had him on my board, kind of watching him, but I ended up doing all right otherwise. So I didn't know he came up there that often, but it looks like he shops around. So
yeah, he must have.
Maybe something.
Linebacker's not too bad. I'm not so sure about the running back he snagged out of Iowa, but that linebacker looks, as long as he's got potential, looks like he could develop okay.
Yeah. And then Stumpy Doodle, they're at Massachusetts. He's kind of the same way. I think he's just kind of middle packer. I don't see anything that really stuck out. The wide receiver isn't too bad. Ronald Black. He's got some pretty good cores and everything. But like I said, he's kind of reminds me along the lines of that Rob Man 21. He kind of gets some good ones and some bad ones, so it just kind of averages themselves out.
Right.
So that's pretty much what I had on the A10. Like I said, I think Nova probably did the best. Of course, being a defending national champion, I would hope he does the best.
Right. He should be able to snag just about anybody.
Yeah. Then we moved on to the Big Sky, which seems to have the most coaches in it. Actually looks like a Schooly Wee's in there. They're at St. Mary's. He's always tough.
Right.
Looks like he pretty much was along the same lines of, he had a few on the first one, but he looks like he waits around a little bit longer. Either he has to do some battling, but seems like he's got a lot of ones that he signed later on. But he had a pretty decent class to fill anyway. He had 16, I believe. The running back he picked up, Thomas Davis, that seems to be a pretty good pickup there. But then I think it kind of hurt him too. I don't know if he had to spin maybe on that one. If he had some battles between him and I don't know how many like USC and all them around him. I don't know how close they are. Since they're farther away from me, I don't have to worry about them too much. So I don't eyeball them all that regularly.
Right.
But then he's got a defensive back that I just kind of, I don't know if he had to pick him up because he'd spent all his cash but to me, he's got a speed of 49, a work ethic of 34. So I think that's kind of one of those, okay, I need somebody, I got to fill up my class, what it kind of comes across of me. So.
Right. Yeah. Just the last minute signing, probably a backup, didn't get his primary guy. Sometimes you
Pretty
just gotta
much.
take a guy to fill.
Yep. But yeah, they got a full or about the most coaches in one group. We had 5 in ours last season, but we lost one, so I think they beat us out now. As far as the Big Sky, you got, and I don't know how you pronounce it. Is it Rory Seal Jr.?
I say Rory Seal Jr. is what I think. I know his name is, believe his real name is Ray. So I say Rory Seal Jr., but I'm not sure if that's right.
Yeah, that's what I say. With these, you just never know, and I guess they need to either correct us or
right.
Or do it. But I've got on here, he's got a pretty good quarterback pickup in Robert Wheeler. And then let's see what else has he got there. Looks like he's got a running back with kind of low speed, but he's got great hands and game instinct and technique. So I don't know if maybe he's going to use him kind of as a receiving threat. Maybe a little dump passes here or there or something of that
work
nature.
ethic, maybe he'll develop decently.
Yeah. And then that what I've came across is seems like most of them have been that way, where everybody's really hunting work ethic this season, and like the stamina or GI or something like that has been lower. The work ethic has been there, so everybody's been going after high work ethic.
Which I think when I did my maps again, I think D1AA, I think we lost like 5 total this season, or 3 or something to that extent. And I think D1A actually gained like 5. So maybe the more coaches up again at D1A, plus the WAC is super packed. So especially in that area, maybe people are like, well, I'll just take a developmental guy because these mid-majors keep swiping everybody remotely decent.
Yeah, and that's what we kind of posted on our chat line. Is it just seems like since we've lost some coaches and stuff that it's hard to find that fine line between AA and 1A.
Right.
It seems like they're coming down shopping in our area just because of losing undecideds up there. So
right,
it's made it tougher. I've seen quite a bit of difference. So, and then you got Husker fans 58. Now I believe that's J9.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like he's in love with Texas State, because I believe he has them in Leahy in Heisman possibly. So I go against him there, and he's there as well. So always fun to play against him.
Right. Sometimes when you find a team there, you kind of stick to it. I think you have multiple UNIs, correct?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Well, it's one of those things after I lost Yotzer, because I was a Yotzer proponent, and I miss it as much as anybody. And so I kind of had an idea of how far out I can go and which directions. So it just made it easier for me as far as recruiting goes, because I've already recruited enough there that I know kind of where I can go, and it makes it easier for me, which full counts, to get what I need.
I get that. Yep, I get it. All right. Any more for the Big Sky?
Yeah. Like I said, Independent One. He's there at Sam Houston State. He looks like he's kind of the same way. Only he didn't do quite as well this year. I think he did pretty decent last year, if I remember correctly, in guess. And that's with me. It's hard to put people in place because of I'm judging them off of what I look at, as opposed to, like I said, you get some guess ratings, and I'm like, whenever I start off, I think I do all right, but then at the end, it's I'm like, well,
right.
Everybody else did as good as I did, so
yeah, I'm a tough gauge too. Sometimes I think I have a top class and it comes down, mid-20s or something. So yeah, it's hard to know.
Yeah, like I said, they all seem to do pretty well across the board. I think that Schooley probably did have the best class there out of the 5 of them, but
and that makes sense. Him having the deepest runs there, maybe Cal Poly kind of a second in there.
Yeah.
Texas State. All right, who do you got? Who'd you like? Did you touch on anybody in our conference, or did you feel a little biased, or?
Well, I went ahead and looked them over. I mean, yeah, it's hard to talk about yourself, of course. I mean, I think I did all right there at Northern Iowa. I'm hoping to possibly it always surprises me that I'm as high as I am. I mean, I've done fairly well over the seasons, but like I said, you just never really know. I'm hoping to have a top 5 class. I feel like I did pretty well.
Oh,
but,
yeah, I think you do. Easy. You got talent across the board there. And I've looked at it before all this, and even just looking at the rankings here, I mean, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dudes that are better than in the kicker, but 7 guys that are better ranked than 100 other position. 2 not ranked, but I mean, they're both still going to be good as far as either development players or just already good that are under the radar kind of guys. I think you're going to be right where you have been. Definitely top 3, probably top 1 or 2, depending on JD Driscoll, who seems to be having things figured out.
Yeah, I kind of eyeballed his too, to take a little cheat and see how I did, and I was like, dang it. But yeah, the one that really kind of surprised me is, and I, like I said, here we go back with the names again, is Miami, and you guys call him Hefe, so I'll go with that, Miami Hefe. But his recruiting this season was a little. What concerned me was he's only got six. He's going to only have 6 defensive backs.
Right.
He's only got 5, and he picked up one more. So, to me, that's kind of a weakness.
Right.
I think whenever
Looks
we
like
get
he's
to
loading
playing,
up on linebackers. He's already got 7 on the roster, picked up 2 more, so that puts him at 9.
that's why I kind of eyeballed them to see if maybe there was a change of position thing going to happen, but I don't know that they've got good enough. I'm not a proponent of changing positions. Whenever I look at it, I lose too much, and I've been able to do well enough to recruit for that position that I'm just not I don't do it a lot. So I kind of looked at that, but I thought, well, he'll probably lose so much that it isn't going to gain him anything, and probably make him a little bit worse. So, that was kind of a little curious. I don't know how it turned out for him. He didn't have a whole lot of guys to recruit, but
Right.
I think time come back, and especially against our league in our conference, I think that's probably going to hurt him a little bit. So,
Right. Well, and he was saying he kind of debated a shift anyway. He's kind of tired of that Miami area recruiting. Now you got Chetty down at Florida A&M, which has had a coach, but I mean now it's consistently a coach. Florida Atlantic has a coach. Not that they all maybe compete, but adding in the BCS schools that are up there in Florida and the elites, of course, which you probably don't overlap a whole lot, but you'd maybe be surprised what those elites will take as backups, kind of a thing. So maybe that's kind of his issue. When I saw on the signing day, he only had, I think, like 2 or maybe even 3 right out the gate. I was like, whoa, that's at least 4 battles for him. I thought maybe he might kind of be struggling there, but he filled, but maybe he did run into some issues with having some battles that he wasn't anticipating or something.
yeah. And then, like I said, then you came in pretty strong. So, what'd you have, like 9 or so that you had to pick up?
9, yes.
So, your tight end, I guess, he was a little inquisitive for me. He's got pretty good cores and everything, but the low stamina, just, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, he's getting a red shirt. He's
Yeah.
I don't need a tight end this year. I think I already got 3. I try to carry 3, so he's a red shirt for me to try, because I like where the rest of his numbers are. I like him to be a good receiving back for me, or a good receiving tight end for me in the future. So that's my logic behind him. Is he's a project to wait and see where he can get his stamina. But you're right, it is low. I don't like to usually go that low. But I couldn't get a back, couldn't get a wide receiver, so it was kind of best. He came cheap, so I was cool with that.
Like I said, I had looked at, we was both on Gray at one time, and I passed on him because I had quite a little war chest sitting there. So I found Poole and Rivera, and I went after them and ended up getting those guys. So I was excited there, and because otherwise I'd have been really mad if you'd got Gray and I wouldn't end up with what I figured it was upgrades for me.
Right. Yep.
But, and then looks like you got a decent quarterback there in Vasquez, and pretty good defensive back in Mendoza. So I think you did pretty well as well. I look for you to probably be up there in the top.
Yeah, thank you. I think for me, I'm probably I don't know. I try to gauge it, but I'm never right. I think maybe somewhere from the upper teens to right around the top 10 range, if depending on the rest of the classes.
Yep.
You got anybody in the Ivy you kind of eyeballed? I know the Ivy's kind of another one of those conferences.
I looked them over. I was kind of interested in the new, because this HNIC 08, he actually sent me an exhibition game. So I was kind of intrigued by that. I didn't know, if he was trying to see if he was using it to kind of gauge where he was, because he took over Red Hat, and Red Hat was a pretty good coach and a pretty good recruiter. So I was kind of intrigued by it whenever he sent me an exhibition game. So I didn't change anything. I just ran what I had in there. But then I kind of looked over his recruiting, and I was like, I didn't understand it at all. I think he already has like tight ends, and he got 3 more.
Yep.
And
his
so
wide receiver is hands, but not elusive, which I mean, sure, that's fine. But and he's super quick. and he's got awesome stamina and decent work ethic. So maybe he's hoping that elusiveness works, but elusiveness of 49, I mean that makes it kind of tough to do a lot with him, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, Pete once told me for a wide receiver, he has to catch the ball first. Everything else follows after that. He catches the ball, it might be 10 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards. As long as he catches it, he doesn't necessarily have to be very elusive or quick as long as he catches it.
I suppose that's fair. In a 90 hands, he's not going to drop anything, and he's 90 speed. So, I mean, maybe he doesn't need to be elusive. They're just going to send him on a fly route every single time, and he'll catch it. We'll see. Players like that intrigue me. I'm not big on experimenting with that. I kind of have my minimums and my standards and things, and I don't deviate a whole lot. But blitzes coming and stuff. I see them talking all the time about. I took this really high potential, high work ethic guy, and we're gonna see how he works out. That's not me, but sometimes they work out and turn into be a very productive player. So we'll see.
Yeah, and then they had one guy that didn't even recruit at all. So I don't know I don't know if he's MIA or that Uncle Hobo at Cornell.
Cornell, yeah, he seems to be kind of. I think that's now 2 or 3 years for him in a row. Actually, I think he's been spotty already. Let's see. Sophomore class, yeah, nope, just red shirts. So he didn't recruit last year either. So he might be MIA.
Yeah, sounds like it. But judging by what I've seen in the Ivy, I would say probably the best one was, like I said, here we go with names again. S.J. Urat.
Yeah, I'm not sure anyone knows him for sure either.
But looks like he did pretty decent there at Yale. I've played him a couple times in the past. Seems to be a pretty decent coach and knows what he's doing. So he didn't have a whole lot to go after, and looks like he signed all but 2 of them on the very first day. So he kind of hung around, and I think that's what a lot of us do here at 1AA. You try and fill your biggest spots, and then you kind of hold 1 or 2 back and wait and cross your fingers and hope for something to drop down.
Kind of like we talked in the board. I was going to hold out for receivers and running backs. I really was. And a couple came available that I probably actually would have gone for. A dude out in Hawaii, actually, that Michigan State also found. I didn't think he would probably sign him, but newer coach, I thought maybe he might just take him. Ended up not. Should have waited on that. And then I don't actually know who was on the other running back, but I did have a couple come free, so I could have waited. But like I said in chat, I was actually okay with what I got. It's hard to know because if you sit, people, especially if it's like, so I had a guy in California was my backup, so it's hard to sit on a guy clearing California when I don't know, someone might jump him, seeing me in California, be like, oh, he's not going to sign him, I'm going to jump this guy in California. Then I'm out both ways, you know what I mean? It's kind of if you don't sign your guy right then, that's great if you can get your original target. That's great, but then you also run that risk, especially as far distance as I had to go, to kind of wait and maybe you don't get either player. It's kind of tough to make that call sometimes.
Yeah, it's basically just a roll of the dice. So and the longer even if you have backups that you're waiting on, just like this season, I had 2 or 3 backups that I had green, and was waiting on another guy, and some people started coming after my backups, which thankfully it worked out and everything. So, but it's basically a roll of the dice. So it can go good or it can go bad.
Right.
You just got to be willing to go for it.
Yeah.
Last but not least, I guess
Florida A&M, right, all by themselves.
Yeah. They which I'm not understanding. I don't know why Chetty decided to move. I don't know if he's got another.
Yeah,
ID
I
that
talked to him, and I don't remember now what his answer was, because I was surprised too, because we had kind of agreed. We both moved. He moved to Furman at the same time I came to Indiana State. We had talked about maybe going to the same conference at one point, and I think he just was saying it was getting too crowded, if I recall. A lot of teams in that Carolina, Tennessee kind of area at the D1 level anyway, and he felt like he wasn't able to bring in enough consistent talent to produce. Florida A&M's always been a pretty good area. You get now that Georgia Southern is filled, but Savannah State now that they opened, that frees up Georgia a little bit, which is a hotbed for everybody. So, we'll see how it goes. I was kind of surprised by his move too, but maybe he's just trying to find where he feels comfortable again.
Yeah, that's what I say. It kind of surprised me that I'd seen him move. like I said, I went and looked at the conference to see, if maybe it started getting too full or something of that nature. You just wanted to make the jump, but it looks like he's not in a total rebuild or anything that I can
Right.
see.
Yeah.
They had a coach
They had a
there
coach
before,
or
but I
two.
mean,
Yep.
there's some work to do there. But it looks like he's doing pretty well. Quarterback was decent in my opinion. It's got good GI and technique, and strength is right there as well. Decent work ethic. I mean, it's not stellar, but it's good enough. And then I think really the only thing that kind of hurt him was the defensive back Smith. I've got him down as he had some low game instinct and technique, but the linebackers he got were solid. Sellers is pretty good. He's got some decent work ethic on him, so I think he filled well in the positions he needed. So I look for him to be making a push here before long.
Did you count? Was the 5 or 6 that he signed? Was that all he needed? Did you count or
I believe he needed
he signed 5?
9.5. Yeah, I didn't look to see how many.
Okay. Yeah, and I won't count him. Not a huge deal. I just didn't know if he was done or he still might have guys out there. Okay. Let's move on now. I'll look. How I kind of did it is I did the NEC through the SWAC here the rest of the way, and I just picked out 3 or 4 teams, and kind of maybe some things. So obviously Georgetown, kind of the big name from this side on. I really liked his running back, Michael Park, defensive lineman McDaniel, and then his DB Williams. Those were kind of his top 3 pickups for me. I mean, obviously, all around, we know that J.D. Driscoll's been a solid recruiter, pretty solid class all the way around. I found it interesting. He went to Illinois, which is not a terrible stretch for him, but then he also picked up a guy clear out in Utah. So from clear up in the D.C. area, that's a pretty big stretch for him. So another one of those teams kind of recruiting nationwide, which I actually feel like is kind of be a common theme, I feel like, with a lot of D1AA, unless you're really in a hotbed, just because D1A is down to where I think we're at 36 or something is all. So you have plenty of room to work nationwide in D1AA. And then from the PFL, I looked at Dayton. First coach there, I think it's Rory's other ID. He's got Cal Poly then at Dayton, I believe. I don't know that to be true, but based on the name, I'm assuming related to the same person.
Yeah, they're the same.
I liked his running back there, Jarrett. Wide receiver White is an absolute stud. And then linebacker Bird I thought was pretty solid too. Decent, not great speed for D1AA, probably develop okay, but that tackling and that strength and that game instinct combined will make that guy a real threat there wherever you put him. But I wasn't surprised he only has 3 defensive linemen on the roster, has not signed another one. And he'll be up to 10 linebackers. So I don't know if maybe, like that linebacker Bird is going to turn into a defensive lineman for him. I know that was something discussed either in Slack or the forums about having high speed that way. So I don't know if that's his plan. 10 linebackers seems a lot for whatever defense you're running, and obviously you can't survive on 3 defensive linemen. So I'm assuming that's part of his plan in there because I think he picked up 3 or 4 linebackers. And then I like, Texas Southern class, a little interesting to me this year. I felt like they kind of picked up more specialist type guys as opposed to overall just solid talent. I mean, they do have some studs here and there, but kind of maybe not to normal Texas Southern standards. Not necessarily a bad thing. I like recruiting specialists as well. Maybe just a tougher year for him, or maybe that was his plan going in. Not entirely sure. We'll see how that class ranks out. And the last team I kind of highlighted was also from the PFL, VMI. I really paid attention here just because I know how well that the Grunt Boy did at D1A and what he did at West Virginia, and he always plays tough, recruits well. He pulled in a pretty okay class considering it's a second-year rebuild. He's got about, all but 4 guys are ranked at their position, so seems to be a pretty decent start. I'm assuming he's going to bring out either trips or shotgun. He signed 4 wide receivers and just 1 running back. So, yeah, maybe trips because they'll put him at 7. So, curious to see how that thing ranks out, but a pretty solid class there from a second-year rebuild.
Yeah, and he did pretty good his first season, going 11-4, coming from a sim team.
I thought the coach of the year this year was tough. I saw really a lot of different ways people could go. And he was definitely one of my top choices because, like you said, had such a good season right out the gate. So it'll be interesting to see how he competes as things move along there. That PFL, he's still got a couple teams that are pretty tough to go through, but we'll see how it shapes out for him. Anybody got anything to add for D1AA? Anything else you guys noticed or caught, or anything else you wanted to talk about?
Well, I'm more curious than anything. When you guys recruit, do you worry more about the cause for the player or their potential?
Well, I'll answer first. For me, potential is the tiebreak counts down no matter what. If you get a 3 or better potential, that's really I'm going to go. So I personally will sacrifice a little bit on the cores as long as he has potential because D1AA players still generally develop a decent amount in those first couple years. I think that you can go ahead and sacrifice a little bit on the cores. Now, I'm not saying go get like a 70 tackling, 70 strength defensive lineman with 3 potential. That to me is still borderline, but if you can get like a 75, 75 with good potential and a solid work ethic, I mean, that guy's going to be 80s come time to actually start. So that's good enough for me.
Okay.
Anything you want to add there, Jay Hunters?
Yeah, I'm pretty much along the same lines. It's, like I said, it's more of a tiebreaker for me. And I don't necessarily, every player doesn't have to be a stud for me. I kind of pick and choose where I want to battle and who I think is worth going after, as far as if he is a high core guy or if he is a high work ethic guy. It comes down to me for each player or each position, and I'll just kind of see where I'm at with what else I have going. So I'm a go on the fly guy.
Fair enough. Sometimes you got to be, right? Especially when this thing was at its prime and you had like 70 D1s and 50 something D1AAs. Like you couldn't be picky. You're like, I got to do it 100 miles from me. He's not the greatest, but he's all I'm going to be able to get right now. So,
Well, and
sorry, go ahead.
in 1AA, this is Daryl Jones. I finally got back in, guys.
Okay, good.
I think in the little bit that I dabble in it, because I am a proud sign wearing card carrying member of the I Hate the D1AA level club. I want to get through it as fast as I can. See my Leahy situation, but when I am there, the vision is so. I think vision is more important in D1AA because of the D1 balance issue. In D2, you don't have to, you want to build your vision up, sure, but there's not a lot of 1AA drop downs, coming after your high D2 players. It just doesn't happen. There's a big gap between the D2 player and the top D2 player and the top or the bottom, D1AA player, but that bridge blends so much smaller from the 1AA to the D1, and I think that's what's so cool about the guys that can do it. 2 of them on this call, obviously, that you guys have learned to tiptoe that minefield, and that's the way I look at it. When I'm in it, I'm just like, okay, it's either going to blow up, which it has done, or I'm gonna. I mean, I've had runs at Texas State and Rockney where I just got lucky as it was and went on a tear for 3 seasons. But I've always known and will not deny in any way, I want out as fast as my rep and my abilities will get me there. I'll take a low end rebuild at a non-BCS in a heartbeat over fighting through the vision aspect of 1AA. But it's fun to watch guys like, at Indiana State, you taking over and it's that balance of growth but context. I mean, he may be lower end and he can grow, but what's on your roster already? And that's what I think a lot of guys, make the mistake of looking at the players, the newer coaches, the guys that don't really know what they want to do. They don't have a plan. They just know they have to go get the best guys. Well, the best guys in the whole world are not always the guys you have a shot at.
Right.
And but if you go after the best guy that will beat out everybody else on your roster, and you consistently get that guy, that's how you build a program.
Right.
Every season. And you go 3-4 seasons, and all of a sudden you keep raising that bar, and the next thing you know, you are Northern Iowa, you are battling with Indiana State, battling with Georgetown, things of that nature. But you can't expect to get there in 1 season, 2 seasons. It's sometimes it's even a 5 or 6 season scenario.
Right. Well, and I think that's even true more in Wilkinson, right? I mean,
Yep.
even D1AA, I said our numbers are down, I think 36 or something like to that effect. But it's doesn't make it any easier because the D1A is so stinking full that unless it's a brand new bottom feeder D1AA team, you're just gonna butt heads. You're gonna have to figure out that balance of, okay, San Diego State needs 5 DBs. Well, I'm probably not going to be able to get 5 DBs here at San Diego, so I'm going to have to go, either distance for my DBs, or I'm going to have to just find a couple different positions and adjust my roster this season. It's definitely a balance, and Wilkinson has definitely made it interesting. But good points all around there. I think that's definitely true. It is kind of a tiptoeing dance or whatever here at D1AA because you don't want to get too conservative because you got to get the top guys you can get, but you don't want to go too overboard and spend all your money and then have everybody get taken by D1.
And they will.
Yes, they will. Well, let's kind of tying it in there. Let's jump to D1A. You guys up there that kind of manhandle everybody down here at our level. And let's start, Daryl. You just kind of started talking, but you're back in the call, so let's kick off with you here. What are some teams or some players that you kind of looked at D1 and that were interesting to you, or maybe players that you thought might develop well that were kind of interesting?
Sure, absolutely. I did a lot more of a focus on the player aspect versus the team, but you're going to hear a bunch of the same teams pop up throughout this little quick, which is going to give you a kind of an insight into who I thought team-wise did really well. But real quick, as a transition, a couple of things that I may have missed when y'all were talking about it, but mostly in the sense of referencing skill players. A couple of interesting observations I made based on my ranking system. Georgetown grabbed the number 20 in my ranking system quarterback, and Northern Iowa grabbed the number 31 quarterback. Forgot to get the name on the G-Town kid, but I mean, Mr. Hill at Northern Iowa, really strong quarterback. If he grows, good God Almighty. But Georgetown's guy, I mean, if you look at he's got top 5 D1 strength and game instinct with a decent, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember, a really strong work ethic. Now his tech isn't 41, and that's enough to scare D2 guys away from it. But if that tech progresses into the 50s by his senior season, and that's a lot of movement, but if it does, that's an insane D1 AA quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
got there.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The guy when I did touch on Georgetown, I didn't put the quarterback on there because of that technique, but I did see how high that strength was and how high that game instinct was.
Right.
And then with a 47 work ethic and a 3.4 GPA, I mean, I'm sure that guy's going to have 3 potential. I mean, with that low of technique, he has to. So you're right. That guy will be pretty stud. I didn't know he was ranked that highly in comparative to D1 quarterbacks.
Yeah, well, and to be honest, my I am a strength and GI and then tech kind of guy. Well, GI, strength, then tech. In terms of the way I rank, this is my preference. It's what I've come to develop over time. I'm not going to give away tech, but I'm also not going to focus so hard on it um, that I ignore quality skills other places. It just caught my attention that 41, I get it. I completely get it. But if he's buried at the bottom of your roster for a redshirt season, and if you have a 4 system setup where you don't play a guy until he's a senior in his 4th or 5th year at the school, I mean that guy could be it'll be something to make a note of to watch for 4 seasons from now to see how good that raises the bar. Um, my number one. I mean, I think this is a no brainer, but USC got the Driscoll kid, uh, top quarterback. Interesting though. 39 work ethic, the lowest in the top 12, but he wasn't really that close to any other in my rating system. There was a significant difference in his overall rating. I think it was about 3 or 4 points differential to the next guy. Um, another interesting, and this ties into if everybody read Blitz's little blurb or blog or whatever, he settled on Nelson. Yeah, that sucks when you have to settle for the number 4 quarterback in the country. Poor guy. Everybody feel bad for Blitz. He had to settle for that cat. Um, and it was interesting that Olsen is who Texas decided to go with. He's number 10. I just if you can't get um, some insight out of that interaction between those two guys and what they're saying, I mean, y'all, this is awesome information that if you don't take offense to it, if you take it for what it is, it is a powerful tool. You got 2 of the top Big 12 coaches, top coaches period in the game, and they're telling you how they pick their guys. Oh Lord, I was just like salivating. I was like, okay, I'm gonna read this over and over again and commit it to memory, because that's how you, number one, pick your times to battle them, and number 2, pick your times to stay the heck out of their way. I mean, it's just awesome information.
Right. Yeah, they almost have it down to a science, those two guys. Reading that thing from Blitz and how in depth he was and how much he put into every player he targeted, it was just like, I think I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah. I did make another interesting. I think there was 3 outside the big boys quarterbacks that caught my eye. This Kemp kid that Missouri signed, 31 strength. That's going to be an interesting thing to watch, because I think both of his game instinct and tech were in the 70s, 73, 74.
Yep.
I did this at Texas Tech. I I mean, I owe a lot of my success at Tech to being willing to take it on the chin a little bit and go against what I believe I want because of what I could get. And it worked for me for 2-3 seasons in a row, where I took a quarterback with high brain numbers, as I call it, and really low. Now, I didn't go 31. I think my lowest guy was 41. And, you got to wait him out. But I'm going to be curious to see what Kemp does over the next 3 or 4 seasons and how much he improves. But the other 2 guys that caught my eye was Herbert Bryan. Nevada signed a Cat Fang, got him. I think he's got a lot of potential. If he's a plus growth guy, he's going to be a good one for him. And now that, if I'm not mistaken, Nevada's in the WAC, and all of a sudden the WAC is the hot place to be. So that could be interesting. Michael Dickerson also at Temple just like the guy across the board. Looks really good. Looks like a guy that could be a real player down the line. And Husker 111 got him. Last little observation I made in quarterback situation was Florida State, JJL going after two and got them both, but two in the top 25. And so I was like, wow, that's a curious choice. I mean, normally you can't pull off one sometimes, much less two. And I looked at his roster and he has two. He has a really good one and then a sim quarterback. It almost seems like it might even be a sim. I didn't look that close. But I was like, okay, he knows his roster. He's preparing for what's coming. So Florida State's going to be in a little bit of a trouble, not this season necessarily, but next two seasons as they fight through the young quarterback scenario. But they have the players to get them where they want to be. So I think that's something to watch. Have which one emerges as his immediate player, his immediate starter, right, and the other one who gets the transfer letter.
So fair enough. I look at his roster real quick. McGee, that other quarterback, is sim recruited.
Yeah.
I was wondering, because he's got so many sophomores, so part of me is wondering if he's just going to cut that guy. It would be my guess that he's going to redshirt David Smith, that quarterback that's pretty solid, and use Shields as a backup to McDonald this year. Would be my guess. I think you're right. With only basically having one viable quarterback, he cuts next year. He kind of resets that cycle a little bit, right? He's got
Right.
a senior, and then he'll have it'll be a sophomore, a redshirt freshman, and then a true freshman. He resets the cycle a little bit. That would be my guess. Is he's just trying to get this thing back on track because Florida State has had up and down. I mean, Miami obviously is down right now too. So I think there's some roster adjustments which could make recruiting a little interesting. But you're right. Getting two top 25 quarterbacks, that's definitely, especially since they're both in Georgia and everybody recruits Georgia.
Yeah, I think he brought his whole bankroll with him to Georgia and just said, "I'm not leaving without both of you."
That might be fair. Are you going to say something, Husker fan?
Yeah, I just looked at his roster. He has 4 running backs on the roster. He pulled in 4 new running backs. I'm curious as to what he's trying to run with his Florida State team.
Well, he likes to run the ball, if I remember. It's been a while since I played JJL, but if I recall, he likes to run the ball quite a bit. And so I'm imagining a couple of those running backs, or at least one of them, is a sim, right?
I have no idea, but
one is.
Yeah.
So I think it's just kind of him, because he's got 3, 4, 5, 6 sims on that roster. Part of me is just wondering if he's not just trying to reset that sophomore class a little bit, because that's where the sims are. So he's trying to overload this year, so he has a year of development, cut guys, and then bring in and kind of reset. I mean, it's definitely a weird class. It's only quarterbacks, running backs, and DBs. That's it. That's all he recruited. So he must be trying to reset something into everybody. It obviously looks a little weird, but good find out of you guys. That's definitely interesting. All right, sorry. Let's move on. What do we got now going?
Oh, I was just gonna the other little quick observation I made, tongue in cheek one here. I was able to sign Tom Osborne's great grandson at Nebraska as my quarterback.
Good pickup. I mean, that's instantly you mean you're going to win a national championship, right? That's what that means.
Well,
and he's in
Omaha. Plan is
in
play. Yeah. I didn't even notice. I just, I don't ever look at names initially until then I start in my fun stuff where I get them all signed, and then I start looking at playing my little games with their names and things. And I went, holy crap, a Nebraska quarterback named Osborne. All right, that's not going to be – that's got to be told. That's a story that's got to get out.
Yeah, I think that instantly qualifies you for a national championship or something.
Yeah. Yeah, you heard Jason.
You have to run the bone, though.
Yeah,
Jason. I've tried that. I did that in Yoast. Oh, my God. Talk about beat your head against a wall.
Yeah, I did bone, too, at Delaware State. Even just throwing the ball, it was like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I had to give it up. I 4 seasons of going nowhere. And, I was running the ball. It wasn't like I was completely ineffective, but it is such a boring and painful existence. I'm like, yeah,
It's hard against the
there's
3-4, and 3-4's out there so much that it's like,
I know,
even if I got 5 dudes out there, it's like, I mean, what am I supposed to do with it? So I
yeah,
get you.
exactly. Um, but I think the guys that I in the top 10 that I circled as to watch, and this is based on their work ethic, their where they're at now versus where they could be in 4 seasons, type of thing, was of course Driscoll. I mean, that guy's just off the chain, and like USC needs another quarterback, but they got him, much to TD's dismay, because he wasn't he wasn't even hiding it, at Cal. He was like, I'm going to get that guy if I can. And that battle went really quickly one way. I mean, it was all three of them, USC, UCLA, and Cal on him, for 2 cycles, maybe. And then it was Green, USC, and I mean, that car he got must have been really nice.
I mean, well, looking at those numbers, I mean, that guy was going to start for just about anybody right out the gate, right? I mean,
Well,
he
yeah.
is an absolute beast. You're going to throw the kitchen sink at him. I'm
Right.
surprised. And TD, well, he's in his second year. Oh, no. Yeah, he's in
Yeah.
his second year. So they all have bowl money. But
Sure.
I imagine it was just USC probably was like, I'm not even going to mess around with this. I'm the elite. I'm going
Right.
to dump $60K into this dude. Second cycle, I'm done.
Yeah, I think there was the checkbook was out and open, and I don't even know if he bothered to actually
All the
fill it in.
numbers to the escort services were on speed dial, right? Like they
Threw
brought
it
out the
at him.
works.
If you decide to leave anything in the account, let me know. Otherwise, it's yours. But another guy and Nelson at Oklahoma, we joked about that earlier, but I think is really good. If that guy grows at all, heck, that's the kind of player that Blitz will stick around for another 3 or 4 seasons over. And then Rogers at Notre Dame, I liked him a lot with his growth potential. If he's a grower, he's a good player. And I know it's boring or it's unfortunate for so many of us that are not at elites, and I was fortunate to finally get one in Wilkinson, which I kind of feel really, really good about. But teams like UCLA and North Carolina picked up high level quarterbacks. Allen. It's interesting when you're at UCLA, you think about Driscoll for about 10 seconds, and then you realize that's not going to happen, and you settle for the number in my rankings, number 6 guy. Al maybe thinks maybe that's a scenario for TD where he goes, yeah, I just can't get Driscoll. Maybe I focus on Allen first. And that's so hard to make that call. You don't want to be that guy that settles, but Cal didn't get a quarterback that I saw. I mean, if he did, he went way down the line to get him. So that's the kind of battles you have to see coming out the gate, and just keep your wits about you, which is so hard to do when you just want to win. We're all competitive, especially at the highest levels. All of us want to be able to say we did it, but at what expense? Sometimes you find yourself going, well, my class is in the tank, and you throw away a season over it, sometimes more than one.
Well, that's fair enough. Yeah, especially a quarterback like that. But especially if it happened that early, I didn't pay attention as battles went on. I'm dealing with my own stuff in recruiting this
Sure.
year. But if it happened that quick, you gotta think even if TD dumped 30, 40K, he had to have scouted a couple other guys that he, even with average potential, at least to fill a roster spot. I mean,
Yeah.
a decent quarterback is better than no quarterback. Especially if you're trying to maintain that cycle that most of the people are out there of continuing 4 or 5 guys in the cycle.
Well, and to be fair, TD did mention that he had a death in the family, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did
and
forget that.
I know just from interacting with him, that happened. I believe it happened. He found out about that second day, and there was probably at that point, as we all know, Wilkinson. If second day recruiting is like, yeah, why bother?
Right.
Sometimes
Especially on
that's
the West Coast, everybody's going to be snagged
Sure.
up with that whack and everything.
right. Yeah. If you're not done or with a plan anyway in place by 8 o'clock my time, see you next year.
Wait. So you guys telling me there is a thing called a plan in recruiting at D1A in Wilkinson?
Every year, brother.
I don't recruit D1, so I don't know.
Wait. Because I just go at it.
What do you mean?
I see a guy, I like a guy, that's my guy.
Okay, but you're at an elite.
Yeah. That a blind squirrel can find a nut every now and again.
Not in Wilkinson. I don't know about in Wilkinson, man.
Whew. You would not have wanted to spend any time in Nebraska this season recruiting. I couldn't find.
I had Nebraska in Yost, and I was like, no, I think I'll sit out this world because I'm good.
Yeah, it was brutal in the Midwest. There is no doubt about it. I think Jay Hunters can even attest to that from where he was recruiting from. You know, it was interesting to see you mentioned earlier the global aspect of a lot of the 1AA recruiting. But man, oh man, I mean, you can see it on the forum chats and everything. Phil Fulmer's ready to leave New Mexico State tomorrow if he could get a bus out of there. When he's trying to find he got 14 decent players in all of his 360. 14.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
rough.
That is just gory brutal. So, but if everybody's ready, well, I'd like to not take up all day with y'all and move on to running backs real quick. Just
Sure thing.
couple of observations, and then I'll let everybody else chime in. I got Hicks as my number one running back at Penn State. Watts got Watts as a number 2 guy. Washington picked him up, and when I was going through all this, I was watching for certain teams, and Rutgers finally pops into some kind of list here with the number 5 guy. In a interesting, Boston College got the number 4 guy, and I was like, okay, no news there. You know, there's plenty of talent in the Northeast. And then I was scanning down the line, and I noticed UConn. Schooley got his twin dudes. He signed 2 guys that literally are in my rating system 1/10 of a point differential. They're virtually the same player. They're ranked 21 and 22 overall, but neither are guys that anybody would pass on. I mean, they're both really solid running backs. They're not going to be spectacular, but I don't know what he runs. I didn't look into that detail, but if he's running pro set, I mean, these 2 guys are both going to be really helpful to him in the future. I also noticed that Arizona State did really well at running back, picked up number 6 and number 15 guys in my rating system. Richie being the higher rated guy and really strong looking dude. But the one guy that I thought was curious of all of the guys that top 10 for me was Andrews, picked up by Minnesota, Arcade Cowboy there. Andrews doesn't have the speed. I think his speed was 75. I didn't note that down, but I want to say that was the reason I circled him. But he had everything else. I think he had 80 hands, which, I mean, for a pass catching running back is nice. But that's the 70. That'll be another one of those growth potential scenarios to watch out for. What does his speed get to by the time he's assuming he is a player, an everyday player. what does it end up when he's done? I love athletic running backs. I've learned to watch for the higher athleticism and be willing to sacrifice speed to some degree. For my trips game plan, a guy out of the backfield, I don't need him to break every play with a 90 speed per se. But if I can get him the ball, I've seen guys with 75, 80 speed still pop 50, 60-yard receptions for touchdowns, not just against Sims. I mean, it's just a matter of knowing how you want to get them the ball and when you want to get them the ball. And maybe he's not your every down. Maybe he's your third down running back. But, man, I tell you what, when they got strength, hands, and elusiveness and high athleticism, I'm okay with 75 speed on occasion, especially if I don't have to play him right away. So that's something I liked about him. A couple of real quick last thing on the running backs. The D1 AA kids that popped up. St. Mary's got my guy. Got a guy that I ranked number 38, really strong. Northern Iowa, oh, look, they're in the tops again. Number 43, and Georgetown with a number 47 running backs. All kind of similar situations. I think there was St. Mary's kid was like D1 all the way across the board, but really low stamina, if I remember correctly. I don't know why anybody would ever be afraid of a really good player with low stamina in this world. I can understand why you might in a lower populated world, but stamina in Wilkinson, I don't care. I mean, I want them to be able to play. I want them to stay on the field, but I want the talent first. If I got to sacrifice stamina and work ethic, sometimes that's just got to be done to build your core base. And then you go back later with filling in guys that'll actually be on the field most of the time. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but stamina to me in Wilkinson is least important, simply because I need the best players, because if I don't take them, somebody I'm playing is taking him.
I never actually look at stamina when I'm recruiting. I'm more worried about the cause for the particular position, because that for me is the most important thing. Stamina usually will just develop as they go through, the progression from, freshman, sophomore, and so forth.
Absolutely. I don't. I mean, and I think it's for me, it's mostly just a tiebreaker, I guess, if you want to call it that. If I have two guys that I'd be willing to sign and I'm in a position to get either one of them, well, certainly I'm going to, but I don't even use work ethic and stamina in my rating systems, because I think that's a personal preference on a given basis. I don't think to me, that's not something I want to put a value on for myself until I'm having to make a decision.
No, yeah. Work ethic for me, I'm more worried about it for the skill positions, because I usually would want those guys to develop into better players if the cores that they have are not where I want them to be, and I couldn't get my hands on somebody who had better cores. That's when I usually look at work ethic and their GPA. But for my quarterbacks, they gotta have good enough work ethic and good enough GPA, because I need them to develop.
Sure, you're right. I mean, you only got one quarterback that you can play at a time. Well, maybe two if you have a certain game plan set up, but one that you're going to go into a season with, and that's why that's so important. A window for that guy is small, whereas running backs, wide receivers, I mean, depending on your setup, you may have as many as three on a field at a time, and if you're playing an ISO game where you want your quarterback just to throw to that quarterback in a long scenario, you get that one guy, you got 4 seasons of being able to do that in some cases.
Yeah, without a doubt. Did you have anything else going? Because I probably did it slightly different, though there were a few players that we both had noted down as being ones to watch.
Go ahead. I'm
So
good on running backs. Yeah.
I just looked at the teams that I thought had managed to pull in some decent talent. I had BC, which was to be expected. I also had Florida, which I had a Florida in Leahy, and I did not enjoy it at all over there. But Porter manages to get decent talent in Minnesota. I know everybody is always singing praises of them. The talent that they pulled in was decent. Penn State, that's to be expected. Same with Temple. Texas, that's to be expected. UCLA, I like the class a lot, and same with Troy State. I bumped into Troy State on a few guys that I had my eyes on, and I managed to knock it. I think I knocked him off a few guys that I was like, okay, you guys are not going to a mid-major. You're coming over to Tennessee. So that was and he still managed to pull a decent class. For BC, he needed 15 guys. He managed, last time I checked, he had 13 guys locked and signed up, and 10 of those were in the top 200 guys. Mm-hmm. And the running back, as you had mentioned earlier, Simmons, I loved his speed, strength, the hands, his elusiveness, and his GPA. So if he has good enough potential with already the cores that he has, he's going to develop well and maybe carry the program to some, maybe level 5 balls, because I think Laswell is a great coach, but I don't know if he's ready enough to make that, that leap towards making a run for the national title. I also like the tight end Hicks. I think you mentioned him. I don't think there's much room for him in terms of development, because he's already there. Yep. His speed, I think, was already like an 80, so that's not going to get any higher. Great work ethic. It probably will pull up everything else that he has, because he was the number 1 tight end and the number 2 overall recruit. And the other guy that I had for BC was the defensive lineman Shaw. He's athletic, good enough strength, good tackling. So the running backs, as soon as he gets you in his hands, you ain't gonna get out of there. He had good enough game instinct to be able to pick up plays. Technique was good. GPA is good enough, so he's a smart boy. He'll be able to pick up that playbook real quick. He's number 5 defensive lineman, number 33 overall recruit. So BC, I would think they'll probably be top 10, top 5 recruiting class overall when it's all said and done on guess. And then I looked at Troy State. He needed 18. He got 3 guys in the top 200. The D lineman, I don't know how to say his last name, but I'm going to just wing it if he's not too happy about it. Oh, well. Nadeyu, he is the number 45 defensive lineman, 247 overall recruit, but his athleticism, work ethic, strength, tackling, game instinct, and GPA, those were all on point. Even though he's ranked number 45, I fully expect him to be amongst the best defensive linemen for his class when they're all seniors, because I think he should be able to get the job done. I also liked Lewis, who was the linebacker Troy State managed to pull in. The guy's quick enough to run down the field with running backs. Strength, you'll be able to get into the middle and clog up running lanes. He's got good tackling, game instinct, which I think is very key. For me, GPA high on my list. If a quarterback, he might be, if he's in the mid-60s game instinct and his GPA is below 2.5, yeah, I'm not even going to look at that guy, because I need that GPA to be at least 2.5, so that he's able to pick up the playbook. I don't know how much of a difference it makes to have a good GPA, but in my book, it makes a heck of a difference. And then I like the DB Duran. Is the number 21 DB, and speed, tackling, and elusiveness. because I think I remember there was an interview that I saw a while back by one of the former developers of the game, and he said like elusiveness for DBs was important because you want the guys, because in real life you always say DBs are failed receivers. So based off that, I kind of thought the same thing when it came to GD. You want your DBs to be able to work their way through. If they're being blocked or whatever, they should be able to be elusive enough to go tackle a guy or whatever. So that's why I now put a premium on elusiveness for DBs, whereas before I did not do that so much. And on looking at Minnesota, he needed Arcade Cowboy needed 13. He's got 7 who are in the top 200. Andrews, you already talked about him. And then he had Travis, a linebacker, who, again, linebackers for me, they have to be quick enough to keep up with the running back, especially if they are going to be my outside linebackers. I need them to be quick enough to keep up with the running backs. But then he can double up as an inside guy because he's got good strength and good tackling and good elusiveness. GPA, pick up that playbook real quick. Same story with Delgado, who is a DB for Minnesota. He has all those other attributes, but he's also, most importantly, probably, is athletic. So he should be able to develop, read out plays, probably get a few picks along the way to stop drives, especially in the Big Ten, where he'll be dealing with Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. That should be a heck of a schedule for him. So I think he will be very happy to have managed to pull in Travis and Delgado.
I actually had Stewart as a linebacker from Minnesota as my number one linebacker. That guy, man, I'm gonna tell you what, and I'll tell Arcade Cowboy this until the cows come home. Prepare, buddy, because Nebraska had no bowl money. I will be visiting if the talent level is like that next season. Yes, I was. There was more than a handful of guys that Minnesota signed that I had eyes on, and I said, well, I can't take on everybody because I have no bowl money. Between Iowa State, Vince V. Howard there. In fact, he beat me for the only O-line I went after. And so that's one of my sims. But Minnesota and Iowa will be on the Cornhusker wraparound next season. That's for sure. Especially if the talent's like that again.
Yeah, Nebraska's a fun spot if you can kind of control those neighboring states. All right, guys, do we got anything else we want to add, or we want to real quick give Super Bowl predictions and then call it a day?
One observation, and I'm done for recruiting. I noticed a lot of, there's a lot of talent at the top end of all the different sections, but the one talent level that was off the charts this year was offensive line. I counted 42 offensive linemen rated by my rating system as 79.0 or better. 42.
Wow.
That's unheard of. I just don't remember ever seeing it. And I made this quick observation. Penn State takes the number 1, number 3, and number 4 guy. That's just nuts. I mean, that's like, okay, I'm set there for a while. Florida takes the number 2, 10, and 16 guy. And then here's the greatest. This blew me away. Middle Tennessee gets the number 19 and the number 23 offensive lineman in my rating system. When Middle Tennessee, this makes me mad when I think about taking a sim that I didn't get out of trying to beat Vince for the one in Iowa. When Middle Tennessee gets the 2 guys that are rated 79, and I'm sitting here taking a sim at Nebraska, that's the kind of thing that if you don't have a global picture of recruiting, you're wasting your time. Because sometimes the talent's not right next door. You can go get it. I mean, There's no scenario where Nebraska can't go and take one of those guys if I see it in time. It's just not going to happen. Middle Tennessee can't hold up against Prestige, Elite, the whole stat. That caught my eye, and I was like, good for him. That may be the last time he pulls that off, but good for him.
Yeah,
That was a really nice
sometimes
call,
those
man.
mid-majors, the guys they get overlooked, and so they can kind of snag some good ones, especially that's why Navy and things like that are so good, because everyone gets there's so much talent in such a small area that Navy can go in and they pick and choose who they want.
Hey. I don't need any extra lights being shone on what's going on in Tennessee. Everybody needs to stay.
Oh, yeah.
You're the one who
welcome.
calls it out every day, saying people stay out of Tennessee. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Hey, we let us keep the talent we have and allow us to visit other states to pick up some extra guys. Okay?
Okay, fair enough. All right, real quick, guys, before we wrap this up. We are pretty much 3/4 of the way through our divisional round of the playoffs. The Patriots are going to steamroll the Chargers. It's 41-14 with 10 minutes left in the fourth. Chiefs win. Rams winning yesterday. You got Saints Eagles this afternoon. Of the teams, let's all go around the horn real quick, and let's just give me who you got, each of you, who you got in the Super Bowl. Let's start with Husker fan 26.
Oh, it's going to be the Pats and the Saints.
Okay, easy enough. Yeah, you're a Pats fan. All right. Daryl Jones, who you got? Even though you don't have a horse in the race anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I really didn't. I would have loved, I think everybody knows, I would have loved to have had a Saints-Cowboys rematch in the NFC Championship, but that's not going to happen. There's always at least one road dog that wins in a divisional round, and yet nobody has yet. So if you're an Eagles fan, God, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. That's got to give you some hope. But I think that's not realistic. I think the Saints are on their way. It'll be great for business. It'll be bad for my blood pressure down here. But all my friends will be ragging on. Yeah, enjoy that win back in week 10. Well, you can keep it. We're going to the Super Bowl anyway.
Right.
I think the Saints are going to do it. The Patriots are playing really well today, but they've shown enough holes at times. I think it's what's so cool about the Final Four scenario of the NFL, and really the Final 8 this year, is there wasn't a bad team among them. Some people can take their shots at the Cowboys now if they feel the need, but I thought it was 8 really, really good teams that all had potential weaknesses, but also had potential really strong aspects of their game that could make them untouchable on some level at a given time. Who are the Patriots going to play again? Oh, the Chiefs. Oh yeah, those guys. See, that was the game I didn't see coming. I mean, to lose to the Rams, I wasn't floored by that at all. I wasn't bought into the Chargers as much as some other folks were. I didn't expect this, but I thought that the Colts were the team that was going to surprise everyone. And man, oh man, the Chiefs beat the pee out of their butts. So I think a Pats and a Chiefs AFC Championship game, and it's going to sell some advertising dollars. There's no doubt about that. NFL can't be upset. I think the Saints are going to make it happen.
Fair enough. And who do you think they play out of the AFC?
Oh, Lord. Well, it's going to be in New England, isn't it? Or, yeah, they got the number 1 seed, didn't they?
No.
Chiefs are.
We got the number 2
it's in
seed.
Kansas City?
Yep.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I think that this is what they wanted, and I really do think Kansas City is strong enough. I think Kansas City is going to play the Saints, and the Saints are going to win, and that's going to make the MVP race more sweet in a sense. I think the Breeze gets both of them. the MVP and the Super Bowl and plays 2 more seasons and goes away.
Nice.
Thank God.
Jay Hunters, who do you got? Still hanging
Well,
around?
of course, the easy money would be on the Pats and the Saints. Unfortunately, I'm not an easy money guy. I can't stand the Pats. I got one of my best buddies is he's a diehard Pats fan, has the tattoo and everything. I must say Kansas City's gonna beat the Saints in the Super Bowl.
All right.
I think Mahomes is going to be the would that be the first rookie
Yeah.
quarterback?
Probably. At least
Yeah.
in a long
Why not-
time.
Why not set some more records? So yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. The way they've been moving the ball.
You're not living a charmed life already. We'll go ahead and put this on your mantle too.
exactly. Well, I mean, I really didn't see this coming from him. I really didn't.
I
So
didn't either. I
it's-
kind of thought it'd be a couple years from Mahomes for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
Rosen,
I-
Rosen
I-
doesn't surprise me to this point, but Mahomes, what he's done out the gate, I know they have talent around him, but yeah, I'm surprised because even at Tech, he didn't look this good.
right. He wasn't.
And
Yeah,
just
I mean,
imagine if win and they don't have Kareem Hunt. I mean, does that make Le'Veon Bell's situation even more laughable? Because it's like, well, we had the other top running back in the NFL. We didn't need him. We won the Super Bowl anyway. Bell, your stock just went down.
Right. For me,
We need a premium running back. We can make one work.
yeah,
Yeah.
anybody can
Yeah.
go in, right? For me, I was really impressed with what the Rams did last night. I like the Saints. I just don't feel like they're going to get the job done. I like the Rams out of the NFC. For the AFC, I mean, it's a coin flip. I mean, we know Brady can get the job done. We know that, Belichick and them, they'll have the ducks in a row. Chiefs look solid, but, I kind of think Andy Reid has some issues down in the playoffs. As much as I don't want to say it, I'm going to say Patriots, Rams, and then I, by default, have to go Rams winning the Super Bowl. Have to. Patriots can't win another one. Anyway.
It's just not.
Oh, sorry,
there's a
go
law against it, isn't there?
Yeah,
I said
right.
there's
I
a
agree.
law against
I
it,
agree. Right. There should be
Or it
definitely
should
something
be.
in the bylaws now.
The hate.
I'm a Yankees fan, and here I root against like the football version of the Yankees in a sense. I don't know. It happens. Tom Brady just needs to retire, and everything will be peachy keen. Anyway, guys, that'll pretty much wrap us up. Daryl and Daryl, thank you both for joining us today. I think this was fantastic. I had a great time with hanging out and discussing all of this with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and will join us again at some point.
definitely.
Yeah, it was a great time. Enjoyed it a lot.
Good. Well, we'll plan on something like this again in the future. Maybe we'll do one and the other. Maybe we'll do all four again. We'll kind of see what the future holds. See what the rest of the community kind of think. Whether they liked it, whether they not. We'll go with that. But I enjoyed it. We'll definitely be doing 4 again at some point. Anyway, thanks again for joining us, guys. Thanks for watching the show. And otherwise, have a great Sunday and go Rams.
San Diego. Oh, it's incomplete. All right. Have a great day.